I want you to think back to the first time you ever remember being truly afraid. What was it? Does it stick with you today? This is the sort of thing that we talk about on the House of Asher. Won't you join us? The House of Asher, a clearinghouse for the mind.
Hey everybody, welcome back to House of Asher. I'm your host, Stevie Asher. This is episode 15, and what I was going to talk to you guys about was a couple things. As you know, I'm a 70s, early 80s horror kid, and coming up through all that, you know, you have to kind of take some of the stuff from the time with a grain of salt. Obviously, special effects wasn't necessarily what it is today, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it just was different. A lot of like the freeze ups and then zoom in close ups and stuff. Think of stuff like the Norliss Files, or Gargoyles, or the Night Stalker series, things like that. Even I'm sort of scratching my head. You know, if you think about even some of the Bionic Man stuff, you know, where they had that sort of certain cinematography, certain timing. You know, I mean, if you look at stuff, you know, like the French Connection and all these car chases and stuff. Of course, that was the era of that as well. But I'm more talking about specifically the horror genre and things like B movies. That's where my heart is. Growing up on everything from, good God, you know, like Texas Chainsaw Hookers and freaking all these different, like, just crazy, you know, slasher meets whatever, you know, Maniac, things like that. Things that were very indicative of the 70s, that had that grindhouse element. And I always thought it was extremely cool. It always really drew me in. I've always got a soft spot for what was always considered bad film, in regards to bad, like, product value and money into it. Which, I mean, God, man, I mean, look at stuff at Toxic Avenger and things like that. You know, you'll see that there's a lot of good crappy movies out there, and thank God for them. Guys like, you know, Ed Wood, you know, put stuff like that on the map, and Frank Castle, and, you know, The Tingler, and all that kind of stuff. You can't go wrong with it. And you know, even if you aren't necessarily scared by it, you'll have a good time, get some laughs out of it. And a lot of times I rooted for the bad guys because a lot of times the bad guys' characters were so over the top, man. You know, you see these guys, you know, there's the straight guy, you know, the hero, and, you know, the girl's like, you know, Johnny, what are you gonna do? You know, don't worry, honey, I've got this. And here he goes, and he's gonna try to fight the baddie. The baddie just like throwing him around, you know. And that's what I loved about it, is the fact that it wasn't, you know what I'm saying, you didn't necessarily know how it would end. You figured the bad guy wouldn't win, but you knew he'd have a lot of fun up to the point that he was beat. And that's what I loved about that kind of stuff. I had been talking to some friends of mine, which I do need to remind everybody that a lot of the stuff you see on the walls back here, and a lot of the artwork and whatnot, and some of the items, like if you look back off over this way, there's things that are connected with H.H. Holmes and the Murder Hotel and stuff like that. Well, all that stuff come way of Doug Aller from Aller's Oddities out of Paducah, Kentucky. Look him up on Facebook. Super cool guy, makes all kinds of like hella awesome outfits and merch and all this. He's just really freaking inventive. He's a great guy, and spurs me to want to be more creative. And I was talking to another friend of ours who does a lot of cosplay in Paducah, and he and I have been kicking around the idea of maybe trying to put together some small horror film, like little, you know, just small, short 10-15 minute a piece little deals. vignettes or whatever you call it. I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. It's very late. It's very late Sunday evening. So anyway, so what we're talking about is I've got a few characters kicking around in my head. He's obviously Doug and these guys have very good stage presence. These aren't small guys; they're kind of imposing guys, and so we're kicking around some ideas about some short little horror stories, and kind of in the heart of like Creep Show or Tales from the Crypt. Anyway, what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to a lot of people here right now, and if you guys either have some history with making independent film, know something about set construction and set decoration, anything about wardrobe, things like that, and everybody says, well, anybody knows how to dress. Well, there's elements that go into different things. You want, say, if you're doing a show about the 60s, you don't want to have somebody walking around with a cell phone. It's not gonna jive. It's not gonna seem genuine. But anybody who is down to be a villain, anyone who's down to be a victim, especially people that get really good screams, whoever's just down with wallowing around in fake blood for a while, let us know. We're still kind of kicking around getting the specifics of things kicked down, and I think it's something that could be pretty cool. I think it's something that could be done relatively cheaply, still made to be fun, and not take itself too seriously. That's the great thing about those older movies. You could have fun with it. You could have fun with the villains. You could have fun even with the victims, and it wasn't a thing where you felt, what I'm saying. I think things got a little too PC these days. People are scared to root for this one or that one, and just just enjoy the film, go for the ride, go and enjoy being scared, enjoy being entertained. But like I said, comment back on this video if you have any ideas, if you have any friends, family, whatever connections that can do that. I'm starting to work around on using props and latex and things like that to try to make masks and prosthetics and whatnot. If you're that guy, we want you on board. And like I said, it'd be one of these things that with the connections that we got, hopefully we can at least have it released in some of the 3 or 4 smaller theaters in the Western Kentucky region, at least. And who knows, maybe it'll be picked up to be shown elsewhere. It might turn into a cult classic. It might be a steaming pile, but you know what, it'll be our steaming pile, and we can enjoy it and take pride in that we made it. But again, obviously you see all my influences. Obviously you see I kind of pour my heart out onto my horror wall and things like that. Working around with dopey props like this, Hand of Destiny or Werewolf Hand or whatever you want to call it, all kinds of different creepy crap. That's what I'm about. So let's do this. Let's groove. Let's pull this together, and I think it'd be something pretty fun. And even if you don't, maybe you have some cool ideas for stuff. Maybe you have whatever an eye for graphic design. Maybe you can help us come up with like a cool little mini movie poster or something like that. If so, get back with me. Like I said, again, right here at the bottom of this video, I would appreciate it. But I will say it is awful late here, and night has already fallen. It is extremely dark outside. You can hear the dogs in the distance. I'm not sure what they're barking at. Maybe it's a zombie. Maybe it's a possum. Maybe it's a posse zombie. A possum zombie. Now that's an idea for a movie. But as always, check your closets. Make sure your door is locked. Look under your bed. And until I see you again, I want you guys to be safe and stay scared.